Alright, back from my vacation. How's Scorponok doing? Oh my goodness, what did you do to him? I may have allowed him to eat too much green energon, therefore enhancing his size. Well, you know what, Barricade? You suck at babysitting.
Sup guys, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beasts 107 Deluxe Class Scorponok. And at the time of this recording, this figure just came in from Amazon, and I'm sure next week is going to be Pablo. But for now we're going to focus on this guy. And before we take a look at the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging, and then we'll unbox this guy. So on the front, they've left a little bit more space, so the figure is a little bit more exposed for the head to get ripped off, because there's no more clear plastic windows. I wonder why. Anyways, there's also a nice little CGI rendition of Scorponok. Looks mean, I guess. And of course more words, logos and words. On the top is a nice little Transformers Rise of the Beasts logo, and on the bottom is all boring. On the side is another artwork of Scorponok, and on the other side is a more zoomed in artwork of Scorponok. And on the bottom back is all boring, but on the top you get a little bit more info on what you get inside the packaging. Not expecting much, to be honest. And with this little glare from the light, which shouldn't be there anyways, you can see these little ridges right here, which were not present on the other boxes. That's because when you see something like that, that sort of cardboard plastic that they use for the boxes is a little bit tougher now. Here's a little comparison. See? No lines, but on this one, you can see a little bit of lines over there. You may recall that the cardboard on last year's Studio Series figures boxes was a little bit thinner, whereas with the cardboard on 2024 boxes is a little bit thicker, which is so that it prevents the box from bending or breaking, but whatever. Anyways, enough chatting about this figure and his box, let's get to the unboxing. And here he is. Interesting. Also, this is here. I guess that's to allow for a little bit of more space for the limbs to stick out further. Out you go, Scorponok. Of course, it is a little tough to get out. And I completely forgot to snap that off. That's just great. And here we have Scorponok out of the packaging. And first impressions, he's alright. He looks good. Painting and sculpting, pretty decent. However, does not look like he'd fit in the live action category, as of course Hasbro had to make some slight modifications. Although this yellow thing on the front of the chest looks wonky, as it doesn't really fit with the purple texture of this guy. Oh, and the hands are dumb. I'm sorry, but I don't like them. The sharp claws on his hand look like they could be useful for raking the leaves in your yard, rather than stabbing and killing. That's because in transformation they just plug in right here. And the claws on the shoulders doesn't really make him look that cool, as they do limit articulation for the shoulders. And the head looks a little hunched over. Also, this figure has kibble. Great. And the legs do look a little goofy. Oh well, details on this guy are not half as bad as what they try to come up with for the original 2007 mainline Deluxe class Scorponok. Boy oh boy, was that a treat. Now the quality is not too bad. The joints are not too tight, not too loose. There's barely anything to complain about for the quality, which is good. I don't want to have quality issues with my figure. Oh, and the head sculpt looks great too, only because it's primarily used for alternate mode. Whatever. Now, if you recall from the Rise of the Beast movie, there was an abundance of Scorponoks. There wasn't just one little Scorponok from 2007, and I believe Scorponok from Rise of the Beasts was a little bit bigger than the 2007 Scorponok. Or I don't know, they may have been somewhere around the same size. I'm not too sure. Also, wasn't this guy's face ripped out in the movie? Violence. Also, I believe they should make a red and green repaint, as there were some of those various amount of paint schemes for Scorponok in the movie. After all, this Scorponok figure is an army builder. Wouldn't mind some color variety for the army. I mean, they did it for Freezer and Novocaine, of course they gotta do it with Scorponok. But not anytime soon, I think. As after this guy and Pablo, that's it for Rise of the Beasts for this year. Not sure about next year. There's no leaked listings yet. Wow. Remember that leaked listing from like March of last year? I can't believe that was like 10 months ago. Now, here we have one of those figures from the listing. Time flies. Now, despite the fact that there is a Studio Series Scorponok and the mini Terracons, we still need the bigger Terracons, as well as different variety molds of the Terracons. Although I don't see that happening anytime soon. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Oh, speaking of Terracons, or, well, Predacons in this matter, what I think would be great for Hasbro to do is make a concept Rise of the Beasts Rampage. It appears as if Rampage was supposed to be the general, or some high commanding leader leading the Predacons, although that never came to fruition, as well as Transit, but maybe one day. Also, Scorponok is our only Predacon for Rise of the Beasts. Hopefully in the sequel we get to see more, but since the sequel is a crossover between Transformers and G.I. Joe, that's highly unlikely as they're probably going to focus half on G.I. Joe. However, the Beasts are expected to return in the sequel, although I heard from somewhere that the sequel is currently on hold. Anyways, for accessories, he comes with a tail, which is supposed to be used as a whip, but it doesn't really work that well, as the whip can go like this and it looks very wonky. But anyways, there's a slot right here. There's a tab on the tail that will plug in right there, and then the fingers in between will just go in right there, and there you go. Scorponok with his little accessory, which is very limited in movement because, well, like I said, the joints are pretty bad. Can't even do that thing that Scorn does where he wraps his little tail arm around his right shoulder, or I think it was on a different shoulder, I don't know. But anyways, this is the best you can do. I mean, I guess with the tail you could just have it dangling on the bottom like that, but still, looks wonky. Oh wait, hold up, you can have him in a pose where he's dragging the whip. Not the greatest in posability, but a little bit better than trying to have the whip wrapped around the shoulder. And for weapon storage, there's no weapon storage. But anyways, moving on to articulation. Ball joint at the head, which allows an up and a down, and a swivel. Oh, I popped this head off, that's great. The swivel joint is sensitive, and you can also extend the head moving upwards, which is primarily used for transformation. Ball joint at the shoulder, which allows a full rotation at the arm, and a bend at the shoulder. Bicep swivel, double bend at the shoulder. Ball joint at the wrist, which allows an up and a down, and a swivel. Waist swivel, legs can spread, leg can move forward, can move backwards. Thigh rotation, bend at the knee, and only the front of the foot is on a ball joint, with the heel lacking articulation. Anyways, the ball joint allows for an up and a down, and a swivel. With the articulation done, let's move on to size comparison. Starting off with the Terracons, here he is next to Freezer and Novocaine, Nightbird, Battletrap, Scourge. Moving on to Maximals, here he is next to Airraiser, Cheater, Rhinox, Optimus Primal. Moving on to Autobots, technically this guy's an Autobot, but here he's alongside Noah Diaz, RC, Bumblebee, Mirage, Optimus Prime, and for the other two wave mates, here he is next to Mohawk and Rumble. And lastly, here he is next to Blackout, cause why not? And the gang's all here. Well, from the Studio Series. Obviously, there's a few variants of Terracons missing. And of course, the legend himself, or in this case, a myth. Concept Transit. One day, guys, one day. And no, I did not get the mainline weaponizer Scorponok, because I didn't want him. Anyways, it is just about time that we get on to the transformation, which is simplistic and straightforward. First off, you start off by rotating the arm right here, rotate the wrist, make sure it's pointing in that direction, and then use the double joint to close it all into place. Make sure that all fingers are tabbed in like so, and you should have something looking like this. You do the same thing for the other side, move the head outwards, untab this bottom part right here, leave it out, and then tab that. Okay, not like that. Push down on this, and then move it out like so, and then you repeat. Okay, this happens a lot. But anyways, leave them out like so, spread the legs out like this, and then rotate them, and then move that shin guard like that. Shift the crotch forward, and then there is a tab right here that will peg into that slot right there. Make sure they both come in contact, as well as on the other side, and then move this down. Be sure it tabs in. Move the back feet downwards as well. Spread the legs out, and then move them down, and then push this purple thing down, and then leave the arms out like so. You do the same thing for the other side. Well, anyways, you come back to the tail, move this thing up right there, and there you go. And here you have Scorponok in his alternate mode, which is the proper mode anyways. And now the Predacon Scorpion mode is where we get to see a little bit more of that live action-ish details, as the painting and sculpting looks a little bit more accurate to what he looked like in the movie. The amount of mechanical detail featured on the alt mode really puts the robot mode to shame. Now, is it the same for articulation? Well, articulation is a little limiting for this guy. At least there's a ball joint at the head, ball joint over here, and basically this arm is on a triple hinge, which can allow for a extended forward movement. Both the smaller legs are on their own hinge joint, with the front over here on an extra swivel joint at the knee. And for the articulation for the back legs, this moves because it's on a ball joint, and so does the foot. This does not move because it is tabbed in. And then, of course, the tail is double jointed. The tail does look as if it could curl up some more, but you can't really curl it up. And then trying to move it further backward just results in untabbing the tail. Other than that, the alternate mode is pretty solid. However, if you were to display this in your Studio Series Rise of the Beasts shelf, it would take up a massive amount of space as well. Look at it. I, for one, do not really display my figures in their alt modes, as they do take up more space in the shelves, and I don't like that. The same goes for figures with a pretty wonky robot mode, but a solid alternate mode. This figure will be no exception. For an alt mode comparison, here he is alongside Noah. However, I believe in the movie he was a little bit taller than Noah, so the scale is off. Here he is next to Novacaine's alt mode, which the scale is also a little off, as Novacaine would have been significantly smaller. Yeah, I don't think comparing Scorponok to some core class figures really works. However, comparing this guy with other size classes works best, as I believe this would be the proper size scale amidst the comparison with Scorponok's alt mode and Nightbird's alt mode. Maybe. But let's do some comparisons with some Maximals. Here he is next to Airraiser, Cheater, Rhinox, which was also the guy that rammed into multiple amounts of Scorponoks in ramming speed, assisted by RC. And lastly, let's make a little bit room for him. Here he is alongside Optimus Primal. With Optimus Primal, Scorponok could not even last 5 seconds. Puts Apelink to shame. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I have to say for this guy. Overall, pretty decent figure. I wouldn't highly recommend him though, as he does have his flaws and he doesn't really look all that great, except the alt mode. The Scorpion mode looks really nice. And this figure could also work as an army builder too. If you want to get him, he's available on Amazon. And I also hear that he's starting to pop up on GameStops, along with Pablo and both core classes from the new wave. Speaking of Pablo, I can't wait till he finally arrives. But after Pablo, that's it. No more Rise of the Beast stuff. For a long time. We still have a few Studio Series Rise of the Beast figures that we don't have, let alone some concept characters. But hopefully those characters will come to fruition in the Studio Series. Maybe next year, fingers crossed. But anyways, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya!